Magnetic switch keyboards have become so popular in the last handful of months, and I actually hopped on the train myself and I picked up the Wooting 60HE, arguably one of the most popular magnetic switch keyboards, mainly the first one to do it, and I wanted to give you guys my long-term review on this keyboard itself, the experience of it, if it's worth picking up for yourself, or maybe it's worth upgrading from a traditional keyboard with something like this. So without further ado, we're gonna get right into it and we're gonna talk about the Wooting 60HE. Before we start this video, I'm gonna give you guys a quick background on Hall effect keyboards. Basically what Hall effect keyboards are they're basically a different type of switched keyboard. So it's essentially, instead of like your traditional mechanical switch, instead they're basically laid out a little differently, and they allow for basically instantaneous inputs, and they allow for more software upgrades as well, so which basically changes the entire functionality of a keyboard. So you can include software and basically almost install cheats on your keyboards, especially in certain games. If you didn't know, a couple of the features in this keyboard on the software, they've been banned for competitive play because of how insane they are. So that's the main reason I bought this keyboard, to see if this keyboard's actually worth picking up for those features, or if, you know, in reality, it's just not something that most people use in the long run. And I gotta say, honestly, I have used the basic rapid trigger like most of these magnetic switch keyboards come with, but in terms of like the more advanced settings like rappy snappy, snappy tappy, if you don't know anything about that, they're essentially just even more customizable things with individual keys on this keyboard. Honestly, I have not found myself using them that much. If you're an Overwatch player or if you're in Valorant, sometimes you can be you know, a little more accustomed to use those features, but in terms of like playing Call of Duty, Apex Legends, things like that, you're really not gonna notice much of a difference. I will say, in terms of the rapid trigger functionality, like most of these Hall effect keyboards have, basically where whenever you let go of a key, they instantaneously stop moving. That does help a lot in games like Valorant, CS2, and even more like esports titles just like Overwatch and Apex Legends. So I will say the feature that this keyboard has when it comes to individual actuation points and rapid trigger, I think is a very good long-term benefit that you can gain out of these keyboards. And honestly, when going back to a traditional keyboard, I think you really do notice a difference in terms of responsiveness. And that's one thing I think that has really changed for keyboards for me nowadays, is I don't know if I could go back to a basic keyboard compared to a Wooting 60HE, so, or any other Hall effect keyboard in terms of that. But that's the main thing that I've really gained out of a Hall effect keyboard. And then specifically the Wooting 60HE. Overall, it's a pretty basic Hall effect keyboard. I will say, in terms of build quality, it is a full plastic housing, and for like the $170 price point, you can find more premium sounding and feeling keyboards for the price now. So honestly, it may be worth checking out some other options on the market compared to this one. But I will say, in terms of raw performance, reliability, and in terms of the software, I think no one really beats the Wootility software. I'll show some B-roll on the screen here now, but this software is great in terms of customization, in terms of ease of use. It is perfectly laid out, it's so easy to use, and it's very straightforward, and you can even save the settings to the keyboard, so you don't have to be going back and forth to the software all the time. And yeah, the software's been a really good use case for me. I've not had any issues with it whatsoever in the couple months that I've been using it, and I think that's a very, very compelling reason to get the Wooting 60HE. Aside from the price though, it's mainly the one downside is it's an expensive keyboard, like most of the magnetic switch keyboards are, and unless you're really you know, one of the absolute best performing keyboards out there, it may not be a bad idea to start off with like a $60 like basic keyboard like I've reviewed here on the channel before that sounds better than something like this. And then if you really wanted to get competitive, you can go into like a Hall effect keyboard like this. And more on the 60HE, if I had to do any more complaints in terms of this keyboard, I am normally a TKL user. So if you didn't know, a 60% keyboard does not have any arrow keys, and there is no FN keys or anything like that. So there's not many features on this board. It's just the keys, and that's really it. In terms of the TKL keyboard, you can see here, you have the function keys, you have the arrow keys, and then you even have all these buttons here that you can use for macros and programs and things like that. So the only downside with a 60% keyboard is that you don't have any other keybinds you can really place on the keyboard. I have to use certain keys that I don't really want to use to mute, unmute, deafen, and record on my keyboard. There's not many keybind options for these 60% keyboards, but again, there are other options, TKL and like 65% keyboards on the market out there. I do have arrow keys and do have the other buttons like that. So if that's not a big deal breaker for you, then the 60HE is a great option for you. But without further ado, I think we're gonna go ahead and head straight into the typing test so you guys can hear this exact keyboard in its stock configuration. I know you can mod these, but out of the box, it's not too bad. So there's your typing test, and that's honestly gonna hit most of the points that I wanted to hit for this video on the Wooting 60HE. Now, would I recommend you all buy one? That's kind of tough to say, honestly. If you're just an average gamer, I don't know if I'd recommend you going out of your way to spend $170 on a keyboard. I definitely recommend picking up like a $75 keyboard, like the FE75 Pro that I reviewed here a couple weeks ago. A keyboard like that is honestly perfect for any, even just normal gamer, or even semi-competitive gamer. As far as the Wooting, I think there's definitely some really good alternatives to the market nowadays, but in terms of software, I don't know if anyone can really beat this one. Overall, there's a lot of modability to this keyboard as well, so if you're into the custom modding space, this is a great pickup for a baseline keyboard with a lot of good software that you can implant into like a new case and maybe some new keycaps and stuff like that. It is a great keyboard. I've been really enjoying it for the past couple months. I will not be switching back to a basic keyboard because honestly, I don't think I could now. Even if the difference isn't too crazy, I still think it's worth switching and sticking to a Overhyped keyboard. If you want to check out any of these Overhyped keyboards or any of the cool options that we've taken a look here at Toasty Bros, I'll leave a link to our cheating keyboards video in the description down below, along with the Wooting 60HE. So thanks for watching today, and if you all did, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.